Hey guys, what is going on? So we are basically on the Friday market breakdown and the markets are looking good. It's a bit of an early one for me today. Now usually I'm kind of doing these a little bit later in the day, but it is what it is. So we up. So I've done my morning routine, all fresh, and basically waiting for the DXY at this point. So as we can see, the DXY is in a very, very valuable area, and essentially a few things can happen, but more so interested to see how we are, sort of just reacting to these areas. Obviously, we have this sort of nature happening right now, where price can just correct and squeeze and push back up. It's more so interesting on Euro USD, which I don't have on watch, but we can also see it over here. There is this possibility for this that looks a little bit more better, and definitely would be waiting for an insurance entry on this. Push up, push down on the flag. So yeah, just wait for a push up, push back down, flag, and then I'll be in for that short. I'm not going to be taking Euro USD, but if I was, positioning is really, really nice. This, and I'll just go back to the DXY, this has massive potential because given how it is, it could just push, and like I said, it could just make its way back up to these highs, or even actually correct all the way back up. Probably not going to correct all the way back up, but it's possible that we do kind of extend a little bit further before we sell off. So I think it's great positioning right now. This is probably as good as that low sort of position. So positioning yourself is very strategic and very, very smart. So I would say if you are looking at the DXY, be sharp because we could be getting that turnaround point anytime now. So yeah, essentially that is what I'm looking at. Obviously we have this little point over here just to see how it reacts. And then the other point would be down here, but more so we'd be taking a trade on Euro USD, and it's more crystal clear that the JP225 as well didn't get that commitment that I was looking for over here, which is fine. It just looks like it's not ready yet. Looking at the yen pairs as well, it just looks like there's a little bit of an extension in there as well. Just have to leave it and let it do its thing. Obviously, this can just become another correction going up, and it can just keep correcting. So I'm not going to get fixated on anything like this. Let's just wait and see, and then see how we perform. And if we do get something like that, 1, 2, 3, then we can actually look for the short play, essentially. But for now, I think I'm just going to keep it very simple and just wait, because at the end of the day, this is all a very corrective squeeze when we're looking at it. Like, all of this is just corrective price action at this point now. So the best thing to do is literally to just wait for price to break out, create any flag, and then we go. Oh, it doesn't have to be down there, it could be down here. Then we trade that into this low, see if it breaks that low. Then we go, and then we just weary off, this sort of area, and then we just have to wait and see. But that's as easy as it's going to be, really, and I think that's as clean as you want to keep it. I think overcomplicating it's going to make it worse. As soon as we're trading back below this mass psychology area here, it's a lot better. On the weekly, we can see that we still have this bullish momentum, but we're squeezing, which is kind of a good sign of exhaustion. We're not really seeing much, but with the yen pairs, they can squeeze for some time. So I'd be quite patient with it and just let it play, do its thing, and wait for the other yen pairs to shape up. I think GJ is the best one out of all of them, but we'll go into that shortly. So moving on to the watch list, we have GBP New Zealand, not quite yet ready. Obviously, it was getting there. We had really nice daily structure, which somewhat level of disappointing at this point that we didn't get any more commitment. Was looking at it to break the weekly low. We didn't quite get that. We did have a nice little entry at the top over here, which did have a little bit of commitment, but now it's just seemed to come back all the way back up. It is what it is, at the end of the day. It's just not ready at this point. So looking at it on the weekly, we can see that we are still traveling upwards. We don't really have exhaustion on the weekly yet. On the daily, we did have a bit of exhaustion, but now it's just becoming more corrective, and this is becoming its own little section. I'm looking at this because it can potentially turn to something like this, and then we might see it go to the upside, or if we do get something like this, and then we do get that ending structure, we can then take a message from the market and look for the sell. So this is on the 4 hour, could take some days, weeks to develop. probably 2 weeks, most probably, but who knows? We could see it shape up in a week. I think the best thing to do right now is just be patient and literally just wait, because there isn't really much else. This is the sort of inflection area I was looking at though, where, so I was looking at something like this, but then this just doesn't like my typical angle. This isn't my typical middle section. It's a difficult trade. So for me, I would leave this out completely now, even though it looks, or it was looking phenomenal on the daily. It is what it is. The best trade, in my opinion, was over here. Probably refined on the 15 for more precision. Just about here. Mitigate risk. So I would have taken it with a 33 pip stop loss personally, and I would have left it over there. And overall, probably with aggressive sort of, probably about 6% be out of the market-ish. Over here, to be honest, over here could have been out for a little bit less actually. So yeah, call it around about, let's just say, it could have been a 5.5%. Really and truly, could have been a 5.5% trade. Could have been a bit more, a bit less, more so I think 5.5. But yeah, it's around about that region. I would have been out the market, and then this would have just been what happened next. I think looking at it now in hindsight, I think there's still some decent potential for this pair. I just don't know. When. But yeah, so looking at it now, I think that still looks pretty good though. I mean, if you look at it like this, it doesn't look bad at all for a scaling opportunity over here as well. You take that retrace there. That wouldn't have been a bad trade. It would have been probably a 1% loss or break even. Let's have a little look at that. Most likely, probably a 1% loss, because I think by the next candle it came. Oh no. Yeah, you might have just been able to have that break even. Then that retrace would have put you off, and then you would have just kind of evolved ever so much and been. I mean, it's really up to the trader at that point, but personally, I think I would have been a break even. I would have looked at it like this and then waited. And then we did come back down, to be honest. So there was the opportunity to take that break even at that point, and then we trickled. And up here, I guess this is also an interesting one, but it's not really into anything significant. Didn't really tap into anything. I think that wouldn't committed anyway. Yeah. Overall, anyway, it's looking pretty good. Moving on to Kajen. I think Kajen has got potential, man. Honestly, Kajen, we had this 1, 2, 3. We didn't quite commit to the third touch. I think this is just evolving now, and we're getting more of this sort of squeeze. This isn't the sort of typical middle section as well. Once again. Seeing it like this, I think I'm just seeing this across the board with all the yen pairs right now, and they're just going into pattern within pattern within pattern and squeezing. This exhaustion of squeezing nature can actually last a long time. I've seen it last days, if not weeks before, especially on euro yen. So I'm going to be extra patient with this, because this is just going to squeeze. So I'm going to let it do its thing and just, squeeze. And then essentially when the time is right, and I can take a message from the market, we either tap into this, and then we break, create a little flag. That's where I'll be looking to enter. If we do continue squeezing and for any reason we drop out here and we create a flag, okay, you can consider it, but you have to understand that you could be trading into one of these lows, but it's lower probability. We've broken the trend impulsively, and now we're creating continuation, and we could potentially start moving to the downside. Once we're trading back into this sort of area below this low, not so significant, I'll be honest with you. Bear in mind, we are moving into these sort of hook points over here as well, so that's something to keep mindful. I would just be mindful of these little points where you can tag into them. I think, it's not looking too bad. I mean, the extension is disappointing. Structurally, it was looking quite nice from that point there when we had that retrace, and then it just did its thing and corrected back up. Like at that point there, it was looking good. It was looking really good for the short, but now it's just kind of spoiled it for me. And now you just got to wait for this trickling momentum to end. GBP yen. Now, very similar to the other yen pairs as described. I am waiting for this sort of price to just commit to the downside. Right now, we're not really seeing much. It's just going correction into correction into correction. I think it's just very similar in the light where we draw a trend line and we just wait for it to be broken. Honestly, if it breaks and we create this flag, we can go to the downside. But at this point, we're just seeing correction into correction into correction. Who's to say if we do take another trade, it doesn't just create another correction? It evolves again and again. I'll be waiting patiently for this one. It could take some time, but it looks like it will be the one shaping up structurally the best, especially with the higher time frame structure in place. The only negative confluence is because it's in this corrective nature, we can just still correct further and then drop off at some point. We just have to be on our A game. So Aussie Swiss is the one I took a trade on. There was an opportunity to take another trade yesterday. I think it was roughly around about 6 o'clock. Apologies. 6 o'clock. I just decided not to, just because I didn't want to over position size myself. So in the big sequence of things, we can see that structurally we're moving quite well. We basically are in a downtrend, which is very obvious. And then we have all these beautiful corrections. I think the ones that I'm really interested in is these ones, this one, this one. You know, those are the sort of corrections that I personally am interested in. These ones are a little bit less, and obviously not that one. Don't know what that is. But yeah, so that's what it is. And going into the daily, we have our next one, which is really good. And then in terms of risk reward, we can actually trade and continue in downtrend to this side. We have to understand that because we are so far down into the run, this can become a little bit more messy, but structurally it's there. So what we can see in terms of structure, if we just paint this out, and I'll just draw this one on just because it looks nice. We can see we didn't get the full commitment on this one, which is completely fine. It happens, but then we get the mini one, which is very common with Aussie related pairs. And then we had something like that, which fair enough. It kind of just came into this little hook point and then sold off. So remember this structure here. I think if you're going to trade Aussie pairs, try study these structures because they're actually very, very common. Obviously, the nice thing about it is we do also get, you know, structures below sometimes. So looking at this flag over here, okay, everything else is somewhat irrelevant at this point. We're just focusing on this. Now, one thing that I'm interested in about this is we have this hook point up here, we have this point over here, and then we have this large structure here. We have a 1, 2, 3 leading into this hook point. We have to understand that there is this sort of section over here as well, but it's fairly far away. And then we can see that we had impulse correction continuation, we had impulse correction continuation, creating that middle section, which is over here. Nice structure there as well. And then we saw the push up. Now, if we go to the hourly, as we're evaluating this closer, we can see that it was very corrective at the beginning, pushed up, carried on being quite corrective, and then carried on corrective at the end. So there was a level of exhaustion towards the end. Then furthermore, as we approached this high, I was then evaluating for structure, and there wasn't really anything so clear at that point. It was more so looking at something like this, and I was like, okay, we're kind of ending in it. Let's see if we can refine it on the hourly. And then went to the hour, and I was like, okay, we've broken above. What I want to see is how we react to this level here, because we came here, we just sold off aggressively. Fair enough. At that point there, we kind of just correctively started moving, and we just kind of had the M-star sort of vibe to it with that scoop. Nice little arcing nature there, which I was interested in. And then we had this 1 hour retrace, well, 15-minute retrace on the high. Also understanding that we are in a impulsive RO3 there. So we did correct, but then we just impulsively pushed, which is fine because we were corrective the majority of the run anyway. Then I looked at it and I was like, okay, we're getting a push down on that high. It's quite aggressive at that point. If we get a 5-minute flag here, I wouldn't not opt into that because of the whole context of things. We pushed up, corrective squeeze, we aggressively pushed away, then we correctively came back up to the high, and then at this point here, we might be starting the golden run. It's very probable. It was easy for me to slap in a 10 pip stop loss. I think easily I could have put it in here for the reduced risk as well, but I opted in to have it just above. And then I was happy to take it here because it kind of protected me above this high. We had the internal 1, 2, 3. If I zoom in a little bit closer, and I think it's better that I just do this. And we basically have this section here, which I was more than happy with, to be honest. I was like, okay, cool. I'll take that now because this can just drop off from here. We have 2 tops, we have 2 bottoms, more than enough for me to meet my criteria. I'll take that trade. So then left it, and then it did continue to do its thing, and I was happy with the trade. I was like, well, if it takes me out, it takes me out. At the end of the day, the whole picture doesn't change. You know, the worst case scenario is maybe we'll just tap into that high and sell off. But there was this high as well. So then if it did kind of correct, and let's just say it just went like this, and it came up here, then I would just take a message from the market and understand that, okay, fine, you know, at this point here, possibly we're just going to go there. I wait for a push down, a flag, and I get involved again. That was literally as simple as it. Obviously, we have to understand that there is the possibility this price could have gone up, created this, and continued. Fine, fair enough. I would then take another message from the market. So holding that, it was pretty good, and then let it play out, and then it just started dropping off. And then as it was down here, I was like, okay, cool. So we do have commitment. Let's see how we react to this low, and then we kind of just started correcting, which was really good. And then at this point here, I was on the call to one of my friends, and we were looking at this pair, and I was like, okay, cool, this actually looks pretty good. There's possibly a trade over here. Let's wait and see. And then boom, that was the trade. So I marked it on the charts. I didn't take it, but I said this was more than enough. Don't know why I'm still on the 5. So yeah, it's more than enough. And you can see it clearer on the 5 for refinement. And you say, okay, cool, I'll be happy to take that trade. And then we let it play out. Did come to the low. You could lock in break even at that point, but I think given how high we are in structure, it's probably one which is better to just hold, and we're just waiting, and yeah, eventually it just committed, and now we're trading somewhere down here. So that's the thing about it. It's got a lot of potential, this trade, and I think at the moment we just need to give it time to materialize. I think there's literally so much potential for these Swiss pairs if we do get commitment. Right now we're seeing continuation across quite a lot of them. So, you know, if we do get something like that, fair enough, we could be in for another decent flag position to go to the low. But we have to understand we are at this low here, and it can, you know, just kind of retrace and make its way back up. And then next thing you know, we go to fill this high, and then we sell off, and then we have something which is a little bit more like that, which isn't the most typical sort of structure, and this isn't your middle section. So I think that's what gives me a more of a positive confluence to the downside, but we have to understand that that is also a possibility. The next one that we are looking at is Aussie Yen. Aussie Yen hasn't really given us that commitment yet. I think there's been some sort of opportunities across the board with this, but it's just not ready yet. Like I said, with the other yen pairs, we're seeing that trickling momentum. The best thing you can do is just draw on this, remove everything else. We know what's happened. And yeah, just 2 things. Like you either you miss it and you get the break push below this, or you get this, does its thing, and then eventually it breaks this, creates a flag, and then, you know, we start creating more opportunity on the way down. I wouldn't really waste my time in this area right now, personally. I would really wait for commitment. I think there's so many better pairs shaping up right now. I wouldn't lose your attention on this at all, because it's one that I think you should stay sharp with and just keep on the sidelines, but more so soft watch at this point. I mean, right now, not soft watch. Right now, it's definitely on watch. It definitely needs to be monitored, because we can get that drop off at any point, given how we're shaping up on the rest of the pairs. But looking at the yen pairs, I think Aussie yen and GBP yen are definitely looking like, those are the go-to ones. But like I said, insurance entry all day. New Zealand CAD. New Zealand CAD's looking like we could actually have that long position now. So as we forecasted, this is why planning and preparation is important. And going back to the question we had yesterday about FOMO, this is why if you plan and you leave it and you just wait, eventually these sort of trades will come out. And if they play out to your understandings, you can make money. But you need to put in the work and the practice to actually understand where and why these are applicable. So we have this right now. Now, would you take this trade? Well, it's definitely valid, but at the same time, I would wait personally. I would really and truly wait. At this point, we are still in this sort of corrective price. We're still in this sort of very corrective squeeze. I think I was looking for a little bit more for push. Let's just say we evolve it and we look at it like this. Who's to say that we're not still in this, or this is the beginning of something else? We don't know yet. I would like to see this still give me a little bit more commitment, wait for the next flag. Anything above here, perfect, happy with that. That's more for, if we can push back into this, like if we just extend this out a little bit more, and if we can push back into this, and we're not trading below it, and we're pushing up here, yeah, I'm happy with that all day. I just think right now we're just in that corrective little squeeze to the low. I don't want to be getting caught in any small little tight flags here. I want to wait for a clear 15-minute or 1 hour flag around about here and then go in for the long. So New Zealand CAD is pretty simple, but we are in that selling momentum right now. We have a nice retrace on that low, which is significantly good. And I think if you wanted to take the daily retrace, by all means, but just understand the risk it comes with. It's not very common that we always see a low like this as well. I think it's possible that we do go from here, but I wouldn't want to put all my eggs in one basket. Euro GBP, simple, just still waiting for the push down, push back up on a flag. Something quite similar to New Zealand CAD, but obviously I would like to see momentum. So maybe one more daily candle would paint the picture for me. Euro GBP, yeah, simple. USD yen, still looking for a structured approach or some sort of correction into this high. If I can get that pattern within a pattern, it would be great. If not, it is what it is. But we are seeing that corrective price action across the board with all the yen pairs. If the DXY does start to get quite bullish, are we going to see something quite similar? Are we going to see DXY trading up here before we sell off? Who knows? It does mean one thing though. If this is up here and then the yen pairs start to sell off later and it sells off with the DXY, oh my gosh, that is going to be mega. It's going to be absolutely mega for this pair. EuroCAD. EuroCAD's an interesting one. Very interesting one. We have a nice little correction there. We've basically tapped into this inflection point and retraced, but I wouldn't be looking at that as a reversal. I would actually now evolve this, and essentially as I've drawn on here, this could just be your larger flag. This can probably develop a little bit further if we get a nice little middle section here and then we push up. And let's say we get a 1, 2, 3, we might get another flag, something similar to that. We might get another one to the downside and then trade into this low. And that's basically what I would look for in EuroCAD. Overall, this sort of price action is looking somewhat corrective. So we might see that reversal to the upside from there. We just have to wait and see. Euro Aussie as well, similar price nature, but the problem is with this one is when you go to the daily time frame, there's two things. We have the near miss, so this could be the area where we pull back with the impulse correction continuation. Is this the middle section for this reversal? I don't know. It's one where I think I'm gonna be extra patient with it. I don't know. It could drop off. We might see something like that. It's a hard one because we can sell off. We have all the elements of a great sort of push away now. I would still wait for this to push down and come back up, and then we create this flag here. I think I would wait for that personally now, just because of how it's moving. However, I understand that we are so early in the run. If this is going to be the mega run, We have to understand that, you know, we have so much room. We're still over here. We're not even in this big flagging zone here, so we haven't created no large flags yet. So that's basically what I'm looking at. I want to see how that develops. I think it's going to have massive potential if it does get that short, but I think we're gravitating back up to that high. It's always something that's going to be dwelling. I think just got to let it go now and just look at where we are, because we've cleared all of this price. There's no point focusing my attention up here. Just understand that we could reverse and fill this before we even come down. But more than likely, if we break this now and we start continuing and pushing down here, we could just see it come all the way down here before we even consider it coming back up there. But let's have a wait and see. I think GBP US dollar as well. Whew, it's annoying. It's a bit like GBP New Zealand. You know, we had that nice little push away, but the only difference was on the daily. You can actually see it here that this was corrective. So it is kind of no surprise that we kind of moved back up. However, where we're positioned right now does make me think that, is this the shorting area? And the only trade I would look for is an insurance entry here, but I wouldn't take it personally because of the risk that it comes with. You know, it's just right now it's kind of looking like a sort of choppy movement. And I think if we get something like that, then it might be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, not my type of trade. Very cool head and shoulders sort of looking style there. Just doesn't look like a me trade, to be honest, at all. And usually the head would be a little bit further up, you know, like it would be nice if this was the head and shoulders where it was like shoulder, head, shoulder, knees and toes. We didn't get it. We got it down here, which is fine. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, if it plays, it plays, and we just take a message from the market. We look for flags and continue. At the moment, it holds a bit of risk. Looking for an ending structure as well. We do have that here, actually, to be honest. The elements for the sell look good. The elements for this they are looking pretty nice. I mean, it's just this pullback wasn't really what I was looking for. You know, I wasn't looking for something so depth, but the head and shoulders is there. We have to understand that, you know, it could be possible, but I think a lot of people are going to try position themselves short here. I think the most interesting thing would be to see is if we get something a bit abnormal like that, fair enough, then we'll take a message. But with GBP pairs not looking so good for the short right now, I wouldn't be taking it. Aussie US dollar, I think Aussie US dollar is just crap right now. I'm going to take it off watch. Yeah, I'm going to just remove it completely. We're sitting at this inflection point. We kind of got it a bit correctively, but it's just, I'm going to be looking for it to come back up here now. We know with Aussie pairs, we do see stuff like this where, you know, we have the flag and then we kind of just correct and we don't sell off on the third touch. But I'm not going to be looking for that correction into correction. It's just shouting reversal at me at that point. And this now, given how price has just kind of done that, am I looking at something like this? You know what I mean? It's just a bit, can't stand this pair right now. It's like we had beautiful structure, push down, great flag, push down, not so clean there. You know, we even missed out on this one here, which, you know, it's just not really the best structures, I'll be honest with you right now. We had the expanding and then we just reversed. And now we're pushing up to the upside. Like I said, it's not really the best. I'm going to take that one off watch. It's not really worth wasting my time with that. And then EJ, as we looked at yesterday, it's going absolutely stunning. I would have happily taken this trade, I'll be honest with you. EJ, I think structurally, we have the nice middle section. It's there. And then I'll go to the hourly. So we saw this as the floor, and we said, you know, if price comes into this area, the entry was on game, and then we broke the high now. So, and then there was a nice little flag there. So I'll just go to the 15, which completely is perfect every way possible. We can see it right now for what it is. And if you were able to take this trade, good for you, because it was solid. And yeah, that's basically it. That would be the trade. I mean, you could have squeezed in this easily. You know, this was easy to take, but then again, yeah, well, personally, could have squeezed in there. Probably put a few extra pips on it. just for a bit of breathing. And yeah, that's it. Now you're going to just take that and you're going to run with it and see what happens.